It's hard being a young mother with a young, rebellious teenage son and no father and no husband in the house. So this lady comes to me from my church and she said, my son has a lot of demonic pictures in his bedroom, and a lot of rock stars and bats, blood, and I'm going, ugh. And she said, what do you think I ought to do? And I said, who's the mama and who's the son? She looked at me and she said, well, I'm the mama. I said, who gives the orders around the house? She said, I do. I said, you sure he doesn't? She says, well, he tells me what to do and tells me he's not going to do things. He's real rebellious. I said, you're going to have to be a Gideon and take control. And so with that, she knew the story, and she went into his room while he was gone one day and tore everything down, cast the devils out of the house, can I tell you? And she says, it was like the peace of God that flooded my house. Well, she came to church shortly after that next Sunday, and her son with him, and some grown men there surrounded the young man and said, boy, you need to cut that hair off. And it was down shoulder length, you know. And he made him cry. He's 14 years old. So he respected me, and he came to me and he said, look, I want to ask you something. He says, all these men in the church told me to cut my hair. And I looked at him and they said, they did. He said, yeah, because he thought maybe I was going to tell him the same thing. I said, come here. I put my arms around his shoulder and I said, don't pay no attention to him. He looked back and he said, what are you talking about? I said, I want you to be my Samson. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, I can do that? See, he would always needed somebody to give him some kind of confirmation that he's okay. He wasn't a devil. And I did. And I loved him. And so he started being my Samson. And he started straightening up. And his mom loved him being around there. And he had his room back and no devils in the house. And it was not very long after that, they moved about 40 miles away. Well, I didn't hear from him for a while. 6 months later, I got a call, and it was him on the phone. He said, Pastor, I got to tell you something. I said, what? He said, we belong to a church over here in the little town where they were at, and he says, I've been going out soul winning a lot of souls. I said, really? I said, you my Samson, huh? He said, well, he said, actually, I cut my hair. I said, well, why did you cut your hair? Somebody make you? He said, oh, no. He said, I just got tired of it, and I didn't want to fool with it anymore. I said, that's it? He said, that's it. My Samson grew into a mighty soul winner. Let me tell you something. If you kill these kids with the legalism and the law in the beginning instead of showing them love like they really need, you're going to have a devil on your hands. But if you love them and you call them something that they are not as though they were, they are going to rise to the occasion. God bless you guys and go in peace. Love you. Bye.